13 across the maps, and obviously RBG have now had their opportunity to sort of try and fix some of the mistakes, but High Coast are in the same bracket. Like, they also had the match recently versus Triumph. Now we're going to kick things off on Overpass. This is a map where I'm actually fairly excited to see RCF play, because if he is going to take a few notes from other Brazilians we have within the scene, maybe a Fur, maybe an R, I expect him to be right up in the face of his opponents.
Oh, absolutely. And if you're playing aggressive, AWPing on Overpass, it affords you the luxury of being aggressive on both sides. Like, it's not like it's really stymieing or kind of shackles you on the CT side. You can play just as aggressive on the T half. So this, I think, is actually a very interesting map to kick things off on both sides. RBG, though, right off the bat, getting through Playground, everyone barring Wiz, making moves up slowly. They're not rushing into any position just yet, and they have 2 Molotovs, interestingly enough, with a smoke. So once they do decide to push onto a site, things can get pretty sketchy. One of those Molotovs was tossed over towards barrels, but this is more of an interference play, which won't be bit down on too hard, because player out and long, which is Boo, saw multiple players pushing his position.
I do wonder what the plan is, because they've left the bomb a little bit further behind. Maybe just being patient, not to get it dropped in the open, but it does seem like they're going to try and start wrapping back, potentially going to use the connector to their advantage. But Modem's position, well, it could still a bit of a false positive. He's going to go pushing all the way through, hear the footsteps, spot one player running one way, and that's actually the bomb, so it could be an issue. If he manages to catch this, there's only 25 seconds left, Vince.
Yeah, exactly. And they need some kills. And RCF, he steps up tall, delivering 3 kills. And he's still potentially going to turn this around and get all of them. He's got 4. And he gets an assist onto Walco as well. Beautiful performance from RCF, just holding the line single-handedly.
You know he wanted that ace, though. So desperately close. I feel like you even saw Ben's face there, as if like, yeah, I know I've stolen that, but let's ignore it anyway. 364 damage. So, you know, it wasn't even really 4 kills, but yeah, High Coast, flying start, and actually, RBG are going to invest nothing. Just wait for the AKs in the next round. They didn't even really get any kills, so extra pistol board up for Wolf as well. A little bit of additional damage potential, but chances are this should just be a very, very clean round. And so far, I quite like the style from High Coast. They've not been afraid to try and take map control, get up in the faces, and it has to be mentioned that Modern being able to get so far behind the opponents allowed for the remainder to be stacked up on that B site. Sure, he didn't really end up doing anything in terms of fragging, but that information was so valuable to them.
Oh yeah, intel is so vital in pistol rounds. It does allow you to go for those crossfires and to stack more bodies on positions. Pwn alone drops the bomb down. Aggression with the MP9. Love to see them using those weapons to their devastating strongest suit. And now Wolco may get the drop onto the M4 wielding player in bathrooms, but unlikely that he'll get the kill from it. Motum is a bit low, actually, so maybe they can take something out of this round, albeit very small amounts. He's listening for footsteps to see if we can hear a couple more players, and if someone walks past him, maybe he can even get a knife kill in effect, which would bolster his economy somewhat. But he's playing with his food, and in doing so, he may not get anything out of this round. RCF just round the corner has been heard, and Wolco puts the bullets into RCF, but it's only 13 damage, and he loses his life. So a clean sweep round from High Coast, very nicely done, but it wasn't eco, and our RBG, they can pick up some AKs and some rifles alongside it.
I'm actually interested as well as whether or not High Coast is still going to continue their sort of trend of having a double AWP setup, because it's something we see them bring out on a fair few different maps, Ponalone normally being the more passive of the two. Overpass, though, it's not a map where, well, it's not a normal double AWP map. It's one where you can definitely bring it in situational circumstances, but it's not one I'd particularly want to see permanently. But with both players being so competent with the AWP, there are rare occasions where it does come in. So something to think about, especially when we're currently looking at them playing somewhat of a bonus round. Even a few kills here could be vital. The flash is actually going to hit someone, though, and that gives Ben the chance to at least gain a kill and do a lot of damage.
Ponalone's gone down alongside him, though, so High Coast will concede and trail by a player. RCF, already 5 kills, 232 ADR to his name with a FAMAS in hand. Looking to try and repel the push. Now, they've lost monster control. And with smokes down, it has blinded some of that vision on the approach. Now they're starting to dwindle and dissipate. RBG, to be fair, have been patient. They have the time luxury afforded to them to go for this play. Molly tossed onto short, and our flashbang perfectly positioned allows the wide swing, but be careful what you wish for, because RCF and Boo are there, and they tag team in tandem and obliterate RBG on the approach, leaving just Chop alone. He doesn't have control of the bomb. 30 seconds. The only thing working in his favor is he's at least full HP. And there's a weakened player that's going to be stepping up against him, and Boo puts the bullet in his head. 3-0 start for High Coast.
And that's a really nice round from them as well. Obviously, a lot of it came down to the simplicity of RBG's strategy, just going straight into the B site, especially when you have those SMGs up against you. Normally, a fast push like that has some severe risks, especially through smoke. But they still had to do the damage nonetheless, and just look at what it's done to the economy already. Like, you've got three players, in fact, over $4,000, and they're about to play up against some pistols. So High Coast could pretty much have whatever financial situation they have very early on in this match. Now, that being said, that means this round, although it seems somewhat meaningless for RBG, I feel like it has to be a little bit of damage, and that should be a free kill. Modern was looking the other way, but somehow, he took a bit of damage, but he survives. And at least Chop will get one, and that is actually an AK.
That's an AK that trades hands, but if Pwn alone can get this frag, he can trade back up to the AK-47. And I agree, Tom, it wasn't even a Glock, it was a Deagle that the player had that had the drop on Motum. So the fact he doesn't get that kill that's very, very odd. Dropped him down to 7, so he clearly tagged him, but not finishing off what he started. 50 seconds to play with, and Chop may get caught from the side. The good news is, I'm not sure Pwn can get down here and pick it up. He can, just in time, so never mind. I was going to say maybe he could deny that AK-47. Not the case, and now they're going to have that very solid purchase you just discussed before, Tom.
Nope, coming in on either side. I do feel like the T side of Overpass is one of the maps where you're somewhat reliant on your opponent's AWPing style to give you opportunities to find picks, especially if there's a more passive stance. It can be relatively difficult, and utility is going to be important. Also, really interesting how fast they're going. You buy into an AWP and then just run through the smoke on mid, clearly trying to catch somebody off guard, but instead have been caught themselves. Considering this is their first proper buy, I'm very surprised that that's the style they go for.
Yeah, it was a really sweet off angle from Pwn alone, but you don't expect him to get 2, and he nearly picked up a 3rd. If his spray through the smoke was just slightly more to the left, he could have even had 3. He could have single-handedly put this round to bed instantly. They are still in this round, albeit hanging by a thread. And Wiz, with the AWP, has been unable to really see anything as of yet. Already, short control established. High Coast making the most of RCF, pushing into connector. Early on in the round, is now relocating and looking down short pipe towards Monster. If Wolko peeks him dry, it's very unlikely the Brazilian will miss out. It will be an AWP v AWP encounter, and it is the man himself that comes out ahead. At least they do trade back with an extra kill, though, RBG. But it's at great cost to Wolko's life, and they still trail by a player.
It gives them an opportunity, but well, they're going to have to try and get past this AWP with little to no utility. It's only going to be a 1-for-1 trade. But this leaves Wolko with 36 HP and 2 players to find. And what's the plan here? It's 10 seconds. He has to run back, and that gives so much information away. And Boo, well, I'm sure he's going to hope for duels like that all day long. It's going to be 5-0. High Coast, sure, that gets a little bit closer than maybe they would have liked after the start. But yeah, RBG, I think there needs to be a change. And as said, like the way that round started off, like you save all your bucks up, put them in your back pocket for a rainy day, and then it feels like you're out of the round almost within the first like 10 seconds. Like, this is so unbelievably risky when you've been waiting for this purchase for so long.
Yeah, you'd think at the bare minimum you'd have a flash, or you'd have someone pushing from balloons at the same time to at least pincer in and make it a 1-for-1. But I respect the early tactical timeout. These two have met on Overpass already this year, but High Coast picked it and won. There you have it.
Oh, it does look like interesting. We're actually going to see a force. I guess it's just because it's only really Wiz who can't buy, but yeah, the rest are going to have AKs. Still some limitations to the utility. Only a couple of Molotovs, definitely not going to be ideal, and means that forcing RCF off any of these angles is going to be difficult. He's been having a field day so far, and that's the thing. I feel like he's one of the last players from the ones I've been watching recently, at least within North America, that you want to start playing almost his game, like a very loose, aggressive style. Like, it just doesn't seem like the way to beat him out. In fact, most of the time it will be those sort of strong utility teams, like for example on Train yesterday, where he really struggled because there were Molotovs forcing him out of all the angles, and they had to actually switch his position completely because he was getting wrecked all the time. Instead, well, if you're going to try and 1v1 him, I'm going to bet on RCF every single time.
Yeah, and so far as well, it feels like it's controlled aggression. He hasn't done anything too crazy, too loose. He's taken connector, he's went into short with aggressive peaks that's been pretty much facilitated by his teammates helping him out. So we haven't seen any of that craziness just yet. But again, when they went ahead, as I say that, of course, he pushes the smoke. But that makes a bit more sense to me because it is the kind of play that can catch them off guard. If he re-peaked it now, then I'm calling him a madman. But speaking of pushing smokes, MOTM goes straight through and gets the kill on Chop. Ow! Chop, come on, gee.
Yeah, that's got to be really frustrating. Now they're going to re-aggress, and actually they've completely surrendered long control, but they're ready for this. Watching for the cross, and they have Ben as well, who's made the rotation to the side. Only 2 players remaining, and clearing RCF and Pwn alone from this angle is going to be nigh on impossible. Good readjustment from High Coast to reclaim that short control. And yeah, they seem to be playing very well so far. I'm getting a little bit worried for RBG. As it was mentioned, this is now their map choice. This is one they've come in on clearly feeling confident that maybe they've made some of the changes that are necessary. And so far, I've not really seen much to make me believe in that case.
Yeah, and that's somewhat haphazard, you know, dipping your toe in the water, forced by where you've got a scout on Wiz. Didn't really do anything. I feel like they needed to wait for an AWP. The fact of the matter is he's 0-6. He hasn't really had many chances to shine, to be fair to him. And forcing in those kind of situations definitely doesn't do him any favors. Or indeed RBG, but now they've got some pistols. They've got round loss accruing. They're going to go for a fast hit, but it has been pushed back, and RCF again is dipping in for multiple frags. Boo gets caught, but just spins around and takes Wolf down with ease. RCF's tagged down to 2 HP, and Wiz trying to get some kills, trying to get his first kill posted up with a P250. Won't be forthcoming. 7-0 lead, and although there was a lot of damage inflicted, only 1 player fell alongside with it, which was Ben.
They've got so much money to play with as well that you kind of want to see them at least drop 1 or 2 more players. But yeah, RCF just a shooting gallery. No utility, nothing to force him off the angle. And that was actually what they invested into. They got pistols and a load of utility. But yeah, that man just left with ease. 14-1. He's been all over the map. He's been aggressive towards B actually a lot of the time, which is quite surprising. I will say the fact that Wolf is better dressed than pretty much everyone on the broadcast is fairly impressive. Like, that is one hell of a shirt he's rocking.
Yeah, big fan of the shirt, but won't be too big of a fan of the scoreline. And Ben and Boo nearly put this to bed as well. It is a 2-on-2. Probably the best opportunity that RBG have had. And Wiz getting that plant down. Feels confident with the smokes of allowing him that safety up in heaven. Pwn alone tosses the grenade down. Do they realize this flank is in? They do, but it's too late. And it's Motum with the Orc. Hex T trying to play in the off angle, gets the first kill, but now he has to deal with Motum, who will not miss. That was a real chance for RBG to open their account, and they've just been slapped in the face.
Yeah, it seemed like they had the right read on the flank as well. This is something we've spotted from Motum an awful lot, is that he's normally taking quite a lot of map control. We saw it on Dust 2 yesterday, where he got caught quite a few times, like pushing through tunnels, pushing through mid, even going around to the spawn, because people knew he was going to be doing it. The fact is, it seems like RBG knew he would do it there, but I think the flash might have just been a little bit off because he was not blinded by it at all. That's 8-0.
An excellent start on High Coast. They have conceded Motum early on. A bit of aggression. He was playing alone. Maybe this is where some of that overconfident play and getting a little bit too carried away could catch up with High Coast. We saw this on Inferno yesterday, but Ben make sure that there will be no secondary casualty anytime soon for High Coast, and brings it back to even. In terms of the early damage as well, certainly favoring the CTs. A fair bit shrapnel has found its way onto Chop and Wiz.
They're going to take their sweet time. They do have to go back to get the bomb, which, considering how aggressive some of these players have been, even that seems like a bit of a risk, but no push this time. It may actually mean that they go double backing all the way into the B site, having to wrap back this far. They have left Walco behind. Having a nap. Caught sleeping by the looks of it. I think Pone alone even looked a little bit confused. Like, wow, he's really focused on that angle. Didn't expect anybody to push through the bathrooms. And while that fake will quickly be eluded, as there's nobody there anymore. No one spotted, so pretty much the full team can now just rotate onto the B site if they want. They've got Ben as well, pushed up on short. This is going to be a really tough take because of that player falling.
Yeah, and they're trying to sell this fake over on the A side just too much. Like, at some point, you have to pick up the pace. You've barely got any time at all to allow you any kind of mistake. One false step, it's over. Wiz may be able to get the plant down. He won't. It's going to get this denied entirely from Ben. And if Ben didn't kill him, to be honest, he probably would have died from heaven anyway. 9-0, Tom. And like you said, this is RBG's choice. Like, if you're calling the timeout now, what are you saying? I genuinely have no idea what you could possibly say at this point to get your head back into the game.
Yeah, it almost seems like one of those moments where they kind of look at this and go, okay, we can improve on this from last time, but that's almost assuming that High Coast won't have done anything in response. And while High Coast, yeah, I feel like they've been getting a lot of the opening picks here as well. I wouldn't be surprised by that. They have been dominating. RCF currently 15-2, Modem 9-2, and there isn't a negative player on their side. And that was the thing, at least when we watched the game earlier. Like, I was at least seeing moments for Triumph where I go, okay, that could have been a round. Maybe they could have got something there. And then obviously it just turned into the full Liquid show. But at this stage, there's been rounds that have been like close, like I guess the 2v2. But the majority, there's not really been a point where I was like, okay, this is out of control for High Coast. Like, there's no way back into it.
RCF, again, he said shooting gallery. It's definitely been accurate. He's got 16 kills. The entirety of RBG have 17 kills, by the way. So, kind of talking about how one-sided these rounds have been, that statistic is pretty damning if you are on the T side of things as of yet. This obviously a pistol round, probably not expecting too much from it, especially as they've already lost a player. And Chop has been singed down to 42. Motum will be picking up the slack over on bathrooms, where RCF showed his hand earlier, and Boo's already moved into position. Motum has been dealt the fatal blow, but a lot of health has already been lost on the T's. Oh, that's awkward from Boo. He gets stuck on the wall, and now RCF has to go huge, has to go absolutely supernova. What? He gets 2 kills, one of which is a no-scope. And add that to the previous, that's a 3K in the round, and although the molly was on point, it was too late. The bomb still gets planted down, 2-on-2.
Wiz has an AWP as well, so the glass cannon, the no armor isn't that much of an issue. I don't think that smoke has worked out at all. In fact, just giving a better angle, if anything, to Wiz. It has, however, almost worked as a distraction for Pone alone to just go walking out onto the site. Walco will fall back, but he's desperately low on HP, and the time is ticking. Somebody needs to get on this bomb, and soon, and it isn't going to happen. A slip-up for High Coast, as they should have won that round almost dominantly with what was invested, but somehow RBG finally break the deadlock and get themselves a round.
3 kills in round 10, 300 damage in round 10, and I think he's up to 19 kills. Just, this is the next kill is so huge, and it really gave his team a chance. You see there, he got killed, but he fired off the no scope just before he was put down. So 9-1. My concern here, though, Tom, if I'm trying to be optimistic and, you know, from an impartial and neutral viewpoint, I hope this is a close game. Maybe you'd say that all the eggs are in the RCF basket right now. If he starts to slow down, if he begins to go off the boil a little bit, maybe he does get in his own head. Maybe there's a way forward for RBG, because it is a bit top heavy in terms of the fragging distribution.
That is true. And I think going onto the T side, as mentioned, like I do think it's a relatively difficult map to T-side AWP on. As said, you're fairly reliant on your opponents being aggressive, which does happen quite often on this map, but I don't think it's one of those maps where it's going to be an absolute field day, like a Dust 2 or maybe a Train, where you're reliant on your AWPer. So he's doing a stellar job on the CT side, no doubt, but if he was to keep that up into the T side, well, this would be an incredibly fast game. But then there's the other side, like the rounds being a little bit closer, like the 2v2 that didn't quite go their way, and now losing to pistols when it should have been an economy builder. The money's actually not there anymore. So if RBG win this round, they could be looking at 3 or 4 rounds before there's even an AWP in play anymore.
Exactly. This is such a good chance, a fulcrum point perhaps in not just this map, because keep in mind it's RBG's choice, but potentially this entire best of 3. And with elimination on the line, that's an unfortunate shot to miss. That looked on to me from RCF, but at bottom, a little bit labored. But RCF re-peaks the angle, takes down Wolko, and Pone alone gets a kill, and tags Chop down to 51. So 3v2, 50 seconds to play with. They do at least still have control over the bomb, however.
Again, though, the clock just starts to tick so low. After being aggressed on for so long, there's so many angles that RBG have to clear to even feel slightly safe, and they've got an extra smoke. They've just thrown that down into Monster. There's only 30 seconds left on the clock. If they wait that out, the round will basically be over, so they're going to have to try and take a risk and make a play through it. Both players watching short. Oh, that's a bit awkward, but hey, if you're going to slow walk through it, Ben, I feel like he always has a smile on his face just after something's happened, which would irritate a teammate. Like, he walks through his smoke, kills his teammate, he gets the trade, and he's just like, stop that.
Baited, but my stats look a little bit better now.
Look at that, it's like,
easy kill, easy life.
Oh, you died? Should have been paying attention.
What you said was very true, though. Both players looking at short, so I almost feel like RBG kind of were very unfortunate. That player pushing short may have actually cost them the round. Otherwise, they could have pushed through, but that's just CS sometimes. A matter of milliseconds. 10-1 already the score, but it's not as if the economy is fully stabilized either from High Coast. They did lose a couple more players, or I think it was 3 in that last round. So we're still in a similar position where if RBG can get success, then maybe they can string together 3 or 4 rounds. Maybe this half could still end respectably. If they can get 5 from here, I think that's pretty reasonable, all things considered.
Yeah, again, that question mark is still asked about High Coast buying in the next round if they were to lose this one. Oh, we are going to see a nade actually do quite a lot of damage. Again, a bit of a peculiar setup. A crossfire of sorts, but with an AWP towards the pillar. But the boost gets rid of RCF. Well, you've spoken about him being somewhat of a one-man show. Let's see how they perform without their star.
This is where, from the bench, he needs to be watching on his teammates dig him out of a potential second round and an economic downturn. Haven't had that same level of aggression these last few rounds either, High Coast. I'm not sure if they're getting a little bit cognizant of their economy. Boo could have the drop. Timing slightly off, and Ben now up close gets 2. It could have been 3. A lot of damage put down. HE may finish off what he started, and indeed it does, and it shreds Chop as well. He's down to 24, and there's the wide swing from Modern. He lives to tell the tale, and High Coast's just about to escape again.
That was a great round for Motum. I know the last couple of kills are sort of just cleanup kills, but it's the flash. The pot flash that he throws blinded everyone. Like, Ben was basically just staring into people with their eyes closed because they couldn't do anything in that scenario. So, yeah, very well played. And I guess those are the sort of small things that he's going to be bringing to the team. Like, it was sort of mentioned that he's used to playing on a sort of higher caliber, and he's going to try and bring that to this roster as well. And if he's going to be throwing nice little flashes to set up these sort of younger talents, then there's definitely potential. And, well, potential is thriving at this point. 11-1 on their own map choice. Again, like, the T side has looked pretty rough so far for RBG, and it's mainly just been, again, like, one slip-up. Like, that was it. They lost a round to pistols where people were caught in silly positions and ran into a wall. Other than that, they haven't got a single round.
Well, speaking of Motum, he is in bathrooms. The spray's not quite there. Tagging Wiz down to 19 before he's finished off, but at least his teammate of Pwn alone gets one, and RCF being patient and waiting. To be honest, from my perspective, I didn't think that was going to kill him, but hey, that's CSGO for you.
Like a Henny shot, like just straight pixels. Oh, okay. Well, that's a trade back at least. Again, it's not clean. Pwn alone has managed to do some damage, and with this man still on the A site, I'd almost just go B at this stage. Like, do you really want to face off against him? They're going to try and smoke deep. But any noise? No, it's not even going to matter. Straight through the smoke. Wolfie is gone. And Walko and Wiz, I really don't have much HP between them.
Love the game sense. Waited long enough that someone walking around the side could get hit by it, and with 3 people left, completely worth that Hail Mary shot. RCF, 21 kills, will go down, but Ben makes sure that his death is not in vain. And Walco, last player left, has gone the same way. 12-1-1/2 already. And although a couple players a little bit low, a bit scarce in terms of money, when you look across the RBG, they're not faring too much better.
Yeah, I think also it's being proven again that maybe the T side just isn't really there for RBG. The last time they played, I think they managed just 4 rounds over on their T side. It was mainly their CT half, which I believe they might have started on, where they actually managed to bring things back. So it might be a good sign of things to come, but the problem is, Vince, they're probably not going to get a CT side at this point. Like, they're 12-1 down. Their economy is ropey at best. Like, unless they're going to drop head armor and try and bring those AKs in, it's not going to work. There's not really been a star performer either. Like, it's sort of average across the board. And there's still currently one man just dealing death down upon them.
Yeah, exactly. It feels like there's too many variables here, Tom. Like, if you have 5 rounds, then I think it affords you a little bit of wiggle room if you do lose the pistol. But if we just say that they come out with maybe 2 rounds, maximum 3, I just don't think that gives you enough of a buffer. Look at these grenades as well. The flashes on top of the HEs, they're just so on point. The utility has been so impressive for me from High Coast, and they just keep going aggressive. Motum, double swing, double frag. And just like that, RBG, I mean, they're dizzy. They're down to Wiz. And we've went through, what, 25 seconds of the round? And it's already a 1v3. Now, he's got the first frag, but now his position is known. Do High Coast realize the bomb is out on Monster? I'm not sure they would have caught a glimpse of that. So that may be a bit of reprieve in a sanctuary for Wiz. Although now that Ben is moving through, he may catch a glimpse. It's on the other side. So this is a really interesting turn of events.
Oh, that's the bomb. That's all the information, but he will get a 1 versus 1. And actually, Wiz is going to take a second. So, leaving it all on Taboo. Plenty of time, still 50 seconds. He can go on the wraparound, but the footsteps might actually be heard. They definitely will be. Oh, no, he's going to go jumping in. Is he going to expect it to be there? That's such an unfortunate piece of timing. Boo couldn't have been in a better position. Clearly had the mind games on point. And while that's definitely the closest round that RBG have had, and it came off the back of one man almost winning a 1v3.
Just so very grim. I mean, it's not as if High Coast have a fantastic buy themselves. They don't have that open hands of RCF. They don't have a Max 7. But then you have a look over to RBG, not much better. Just Galils, UMP, Mac 10, and some aggression again from Motum. Last round going aggressive outside of Connector. This time straight in towards the playground, and he has Pwn alone there with him as his trusty sidekick. It does seem, though, that RBG will be mixing up the pace and maybe trying to hit B sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think the longer they wait in a lot of these rounds, the more control is garnered by the side of High Coast. They've been more than happy to get aggressive around them. Like, look at Motum! Look, switch to number 9. How has he got here already? He's got a perfect flank. Is he going to spot the final player? He is. And this is just going to be the bomb drop to the deck. He's pushed so far forward in this round. And while RCF is dropping players on the side, but they have a far bigger problem than this. Just 2 players standing, and well, this is almost disrespect at this point, Vince.
So sick from Motum. He waited for that bomb player. He took the bomb player down, and High Coast are just a couple of steps away from securing map 1. First, we'll be heading to a break, and afterwards, we might be done very quickly on Overpass.
Like standing in the sun, you really feel the heat. I break a sweat just like every time we meet. That girl is blazing hot, she's burning up the spot. She's tearing up the floor, I'm loving what she got, girl.
Well, we were expecting a close game. Last time these two met, it was a 16-13 victory in favor of High Coast when they chose it. RBG clearly felt like they had fixed all their issues coming into this one. Going onto that T side, they managed just one round. And let's be real, Vince, that one round came off some pretty big mistakes in losing to Pistols. Other than that, High Coast had it easy.
Yeah, they got absolutely hammered. The scoreline paints a pretty accurate and decent full picture of how one-sided that first half was. And RCF in particular is the standout player. And what's great for me is, I assume there's a bit of a technical issue here, but what's great for me is that RCF, we had a couple of queries and doubts coming into this. Would he be able to keep himself in control? Would he maybe go a bit too aggressive? Well, the answer is no. He actually had a really good balance between aggression and being controlled. We didn't see him go for too many crazy peaks. We didn't see him go for too much madness. So I think now that Motum's back, we're going to get back underway.
But that's the thing. If anything, the craziness did seem to come from Motum. Like, he also finished the half 15-6, and towards the end, it was just like he was pushing everything. Like, that last round, within like, what, 30-40 seconds, he was already completely behind them. All right, though, Chop. Nice little pre-fire. And maybe a pistol can start some sort of triumph-like comeback.
Yeah, it has been so top heavy this tournament, hasn't it, with T-sided performances? Like, it feels like every team has been better on their T side. Wiz, though, does come out swinging with that USP before Modern will finalize him, and Wolf, who was already tagged up by RCF, has been finished off. A 5v3 quickly goes back into equality, and interestingly, Ben's also rocking the Deagle here.
Yeah, and it's maybe the plan initially was to go somewhere towards long or take a battle through B, but yeah, having a Deagle in the pistol round, we saw it on train, and you can kind of understand it a little bit more based off the angles that you fight on that map in particular, but clearly feeling confident. And you know what? When you're 14-1 up, I'll allow you to buy a Deagle in the pistol round. I think that's acceptable. He's not top of the team, so I don't have to call him Ben Leet. That's not how it works. That's the rules for anybody who doesn't know. You only have to say the Leet if he's top. But Wowco, can he do anything here? They still have some utility to expend, but I guess the man having the Deagle and the smoke is probably not ideal. You want him to be the one taking the fights, and actually, they're going to boost over the top of the sandbags, an opportunity to potentially deny the plant, but actually, Ben's going to get away with it. Eventually, he will go down, but he has given his teammates a bit of a chance here.
Getting the bomb down was so huge. It actually mitigates some of the damage that RBG were looking for, but they've still white swung RCF, but now Motum's out of position. Does get the first, but 2 more players to deal with, and they will have more than enough time for the defuse. So RBG, they're down, but they're not quite out just yet, Tom. One more mistake, though, and they know this. They slip, they slide, they zig when they should have zagged, and this is over still. So the pressure is certainly on. With a bomb plant, there are some opportunities for High Coast to go in for a force, which they will. But at least RBG, they're having a go. They're having a couple of swings.
Yeah, the problem is they're not even going to get any moment to breathe with the investment coming back in, and even another bomb plant and a couple of kills would probably be enough for High Coast just to continue and try and put pressure on, especially with the performers they've got on the rifles, and RCF no slouch with the scout. They have got to be careful here. Now Wiz might have a little bit of information about what's been purchased, and that nade was nuts. 55 damage taken off of Modem. Considering he's one of the rifle players, that puts them in a bit of an awkward spot.
Especially as it felt like it was baited in as well. Like, Wiz goes for the peek, gets spotted. They've realized that wide swing may be coming up, throw the grenade in, and just lands in the pocket of Motum. He'll keep onto that AK because he still has the ability to turn a couple of entries into position. Wiz up on the flower bed, waiting for that headshot angle. There are shadows round the corner. It gives their position away, and Wiz, who started 0-6 at one point, is now coming alive. 3K in the round, and this force buy from High Coast, well, it's not looking too good right now.
Not the prettiest fight I've ever seen, but I guess with the SMG being dropped in a trade of 79 damage, I don't think they'll mind too much. RCF now having a rifle, I don't know if he'll be able to make too much of a difference, especially with the position of the bomb. Like, he's almost clearing angles behind just to make sure that they're not going to get flanked on, but at this stage, the CTs don't have to do anything. They can just patiently wait. Ben's going to go down, and, wow, there's not really much point saving in this round just because of it would screw the finances completely. RCF, though, he's been handed a couple of opportunities. 15 seconds left on the clock. There's only one man defending. What I will say is it's a very good position. I don't really know how he's going to expect Chop to be on long, but even still, that's far more damage than they probably would have liked.
Certainly true, but a chance to build their bank back up again, and they also held on to both AKs, which is definitely significant for the CTs. But this is the moment where the round was pretty much put into a closed deal, and Wiz clamps down with the M4. 3-14, a few deagles picked up, but nothing too significant. High Coast can afford to put this back into a slow burner. Volko at that range with the MP9, though, removes the head of Ben, and that grenade is so juicy. So much damage between Boo and Motum.
A few pieces of utility well placed, but can they keep this one clean? This wants to be the moneymaker, especially the last round being a 1 versus 4 and losing a couple of extra players. They can just keep all the rifles standing and maybe even make a bit of extra cash with the SMGs. That would be great. For the Ts, realistically, I don't know what they'd expect from this round now. As you mentioned, a couple of low players, getting tagged even lower, in fact. They could overwhelm Wiz. That would be nice. And actually, they don't lose a player for that trade. Not bad all in all. And that will be a rifle for Pwn alone. They're healthier of the lot. The trouble, though, is that the bomb's down. And getting that back is not going to be easy with an SMG on the other side.
They have smoked off connector, though, which in turn somewhat nullifies 2 of the remaining 4 players, who may not push up through that, not realizing that the T's are now making a move over onto the A side. Now, they still have AKs at this range. They certainly are the favorites. Now the bomb's been dropped down on long. It feels like that is going to be all she wrote. And they only lose 1 player. It's looking a little bit sketchy for a few moments, but RBG have done a good job at successfully recovering. But very lack of weaponry centered around for High Coast is now turned into AKs. And more importantly, RCF has his hand on the AWP again.
I'll be interested to see if he can keep up that level, and the fact is, if he does, it's over. This would be GG. It currently sat just a couple of rounds away, and unless RBG can pull off a ridiculous amount of rounds in a row, and this is not the start they were looking for. Boo's spray a little bit wild, and actually Chop does manage to get away, although Motten is not happy to let him leave. Nice work from Walco, though. That's a big upgrade. SMG traded into the rifle. RCF has found another, though. And in fact, that rifle is not picked up for long.
Yeah, neutralizes Walco before he can escape. Also, taking the connector player down can actually sell a fake as well, indirectly from RBG. They could be going back up to A. Nice first spray, but the second one slightly lets Hex down. Still did a lot of damage, though, onto the oncoming Ben. Still a minute to play with. Incendiary being tossed towards the site. That will allow Wiz to relocate to help his teammates. RCF getting a little bit tagged by that. And up comes Ben. Chop is there to deal with him. RCF in the flashbang gets peeked by Wiz. And another successful hold by RBG.
Yeah, not bad, especially after the initial engagement. It looked like it was going to be a bit rough with Boo managing to find the opener, but they do bring things back. The connector control as well from Walco has been decent over the last few rounds. And they've put them down to what is a mixed bag of pistols. Yeah, I think you'd have to throw in some dual Berettas and a revolver to complete the full variety. But we do have a CZ. And a CZ on T side as well. I don't think that's something I've seen in a while.
Yeah, Tech-9 seems like it is definitely the superior pistol in many people's minds. The CZ in the right hands, make no mistake, can definitely snatch away a few lives. Early on, though, it's Boo that's taking the bulk of the damage. Walco is making a move around the side. Ben gets tagged elsewhere. I think that was down on long, and now he's been finished off. Walco with a spray, getting one. Labored gets punished. 2 for 2 trade, but now that equality is taken away by Chop's M4. Bomb also gets spilled alongside it, and the remaining 2 Ts are very low. Make that just 1. The high ordnance of Hext has finished off a weakened Boo, and Pwn alone may have a rifle, but no longer has any health left to supply it. 14-6, RBG. That's 5 rounds in a row now.
Yeah, they've got over the start, that's for sure, but this is only the second proper Byron, and the last one was still relatively close. Like, sure, it went in their direction, but there were a few key jewels that I feel like easily could have gone back in the other direction. So still, the jury yet to be out on whether or not this will be the beginning of something to talk about. A lot of utility being expended early on. RCF, he's going to be waiting. Walco, this is a risky fight to take. Did he get spotted by RCF? I'm not so sure. And now going to go for the peak. And actually, they managed to catch off Modem. I'm not quite sure if that was worth it, because you've just traded 1 for 1 with the T's now basically not having any need to do anything overly aggressive. They can push into a site and have a favorable duel, but hey, I guess at least it was 1. I didn't expect him to get anything.
Yeah, I think typically a 1-for-1 trade favors the T's almost unanimously, and this is why they may be going aggressive. Now, RCF may get caught. There's 2 players out, Monster. They both push in. He gets a 1-for-1 trade, but there's Boo. He should be getting that kill. That should have been the return frag. That should be High Coast to the player advantage, but instead, they may be going 2 behind. No, Ben just survives on a slither of health. 2 HP separating him and his demise. And now Pwn alone making moves through short pipe. The bomb's also been spilled down. A really rocky round for High Coast. And it could be yet another one to add to the mix. A lot of damage put down, and Wolf will finish off what he started. Leaving Ben on 2 HP with all to do. He's got the first, but a HE from downtown silences him, and a wry smile on his face says it all. High Coast let another one go by the wayside.
Yeah, there's been a few really dicey duels over the last round especially, but it's still going in the favor of RBG. I don't think they'll be complaining too much. The glasses are off, so it's gaming time. And actually, it looks like it might just be a fast take straight in towards the B site. Everybody gathering up outside Monster. An AUG of Hexed on the other side. And actually, it's going to be a triple nade stack. Doesn't quite do the damage I'm sure they were hoping for, but at least leaves Chop a little bit low. And he's given the opportunity to just spray away. Wolfie as well will close the round. And is this just going to be a theme today? We saw the ridiculous first half out from Liquid over on their T side, letting things slip on the CT. Now we've got the reverse here, where both teams performing very well on their CT side and really struggling when it comes to their T side. It almost reminds me of like Counter-Strike, like going back a few years, where we had like sort of the dominance of Nuke. You had CT side Train being absolute filth. Even Overpass to an extent was of the same brand, but not normally the case so much anymore. But it does seem like both teams are really struggling to find anything.
Goes to show just how much RCF has leveled up since the last time he played against RBG. 29 kills to 13 deaths. But again, it does feel like it's a little bit one-dimensional from High Coast. It's either RCF gets frags, or they're typically just going to keep conceding. Even with him getting kills, to be fair, they're still losing these rounds. And players like Wolfie have really stepped up. RCF extinguishing the Molotov for an early peak, but no one is there. RBG instead deciding they want to push down Rolco into connector. He has been here a couple times before, and of course, it's a pretty standard position. The downside here, though, for RBG is if no one helps him out in short, he may feel compelled to go aggressive because he knows he's going to get swept in from either middle or through connector side, hence his peak. That's a big, costly mistake and error that could cost RBG the entire map.
And the problem now is that the remaining players on RBG have to try and react to this. Wiz, it seems his plan is to try and get aggressive, holding on to the cross. They're actually not going to check it properly, but he whiffs. And that leaves him stuck in no man's land, getting pincered in as well. There's no escape towards long. He basically has to fight his way out. You can see already a headshot angle being held, but Ben doesn't connect the shot either. This has become a very awkward situation. Wiz basically chilling with the T's, still holding on, and the rest of the team is sort of battling over on this A side. This has become such a peculiar round. And eventually it comes down to just one. Hexed has the bomb under his control. He's going to re-aggress, take a fight instead, and this time he won't lose it. I'm not sure what happened in that round, Vince, but I guess High Coast got to 15.
I'm just sat there scratching my head because Wiz survives about 15 years longer than I thought he would. And then they decide to push the bomb carrier by himself onto the site while the rest of his team try to deal with Wiz. I'm so confused. And then Hexed, you could see he was so angry. I don't know if it's because he felt like he got CSGO'd or the AUG let him down, but he sprayed through that last player so many times and didn't get the frag. So either way, whichever way you spin it, High Coast have 7 map points. And because they've been whittling away, it's 2 MP9s, one of which in the hand of Hexed, who's just been tagged to 67, so a third of his HP has been melted away. And High Coast taking control over Fountain.
Gonna go for a boost to check the control of Banana, but not really find anything just yet. RCF actually tagged down to just 16 HP. Wiz has to be careful because he is playing without any armor, and while the rest of the team actually playing with fairly diminished utility. Now with a minute gone on the clock, it's gonna have to be the bomb being retrieved and not really anything found. That opening in the last round seemed to make a fairly big difference. Gave a lot more space over to High Coast, but they've not had too many of them. And when one of their players already low, they might feel a little bit more pressure in this round.
And it's not the first time they've got peeked from bathrooms either on middle side and got caught by this. Feels like they're taking their eye off the ball when it comes to bathroom control. Wolf for the spray gets one. It's just the AWP in the hands of Pone alone, who couldn't really transition into a double spray. They have at least got one back, but Wolfie changing his angle again. It's beautiful. Spray transfer on point. Shades back on. Deal with it.
I love how afterwards he just goes back to normal, like nothing happens, like, right? And we're back in the room.
It's like all of that hype, and he looks at this. Oh, we're still losing 15-9. Okay, shades off.
We're still losing by 6. At least it's not our map. Oh. Well, not an ideal buy coming back up for High Coast either, but they do have the finances to at least put rifles on the majority. Boo gonna take the hit in this case. Walko will be forced back, although I'm not sure they were close enough to necessarily hear him, so should be able to actually move back in. So they've cleared that angle, but not checked to see if anyone actually moved away. And so either they're gonna have to hard check it on their way back through, or he's just going to be left unchecked, which it would be a horrific mistake considering they actually put the utility in to try and get that angle cleared. Wiz this time holding for a more passive angle on the site, but it really is going to be Walko. I want to see if the T's check this.
I'm at least glad that they've read that bathrooms was an issue, so they've dealt with that. Oh, the timing peak. It could have been 2. A 1-for-1 is fine, and it's just got a whole lot better as RCF dropping the AWP, picking up the AK instead, deciding he wants to get this done. If he has to run and drag the rest of his team behind him, so be it. And the trades keep going in favor of High Coast. It's all down to Hex, 1 and 3. He's been spotted. He's stalled it a little bit longer. But still, the bomb's now been planted, Tom, and surely this is the beginning of the end.
You'd almost have to hope so. A bit of a riskier peak coming into that one. And while it may have been the last rounds with the shades